Well, thank you very much, and welcome, and I'm delighted to welcome you. What a pleasure to have you here today, all of you. This is Dr. June Distel, who has her master's degree in psychology and parapsychology from Sonoma State. So Dr. June also has a PhD in transpersonal spiritual psychology from Golden State University.
Yes.
And I'm just so happy to have her. She is the founder and developer and has been teacher since 1975 of the Illuminated Mind Seminars. I'm holding the text that isn't really a text. It's a step-by-step guide to spiritual discovery that goes along with the seminar, and many people have discovered this book, and it's exactly what it says, step by step, that you can do it on your own, or if you have the opportunity, which I have had, to attend seminar with Dr. June, that's even better. But it's available, and I'm just going to pass this on to her. She also has a website if you wanted more information about her seminars. It's junedistel.com. And today we have a few of her CDs of some of the meditations, which are available on tape or CD, that people love and like to repeat on their own at a later time. Now, I'm going to hand this to you because it may just be something handy that you may want to point out things as we go along.
Yes.
And I'd just like to turn it over to you and tell us about your Illuminated Mind Seminars, particularly the introductory one. I know that many of the nurses take it for continuing education, and in fact, one of our people in the audience today is a nurse, and that's very exciting, very exciting. So tell us a little bit about your seminars and maybe give us a little sample, whatever you like.
Thank you, Dr. Bergen. This is the most exciting thing that I have ever done. It's changing people's lives, discovering a part of yourself, an aspect of yourself that is unknown to most of us, doing it very gently. Since I was 16 years old, I have been studying in this field, been in many, many disciplines and studied with many teachers, then brought together the wisdom and the knowledge that I learned over years, and in one weekend have all of that condensed. At this time, because people are so advanced and because the world is changing so fast, everyone who takes the seminar is able to accomplish all of the things that it took me years and years to do. In the terminology of today, we're talking about the training that was in mystery schools, that was hidden, was kept secret because it's so potent. The oldest knowledge we have comes from the Gobi Desert, from hieroglyphics which have been deciphered and interpreted. This talks about 3 different states of consciousness, 3 different parts of everyone's mind. Every native culture talks about this. All of the religions have this basic. It's intrinsic to the mythology, the same truths, the fact that we are 3 separate and distinct people. The native Hawaiians talked about the low self, the middle self, and the high self. In psychology, now we talk about the subconscious or the unconscious mind, the conscious mind, and the superconscious mind. The same 3 divisions, the same 3 distinctions. Most of us live in our conscious minds today. This is the world of time, the world of space, the world of the rational mind, of our thinking mind, what we consider our everyday minds. And yet we're controlled and dominated by the low self, the subconscious mind, because this is a realm of habits, the realm of the emotions, it's the realm of instinct, it's the part that permits us to live and survive on the planet. This is also the intelligence which takes charge of all of the systems of the body, this wonderful, incredible intelligence. And so we think that we're looking in our everyday world, we're in time, we're in space, and yet we find that we are controlled by these aspects of ourself which may seem to be unconscious. Very few of us are able to spend time in what we call the high self or the superconscious mind. This is a divinity within us. This is a soul. This is really the true self. In order to reach this and to understand it and to live in this part of ourselves, it's necessary to have harmony and balance between the aspects of our two lower selves, to have the subconscious mind, the conscious mind, the low self, and the middle self in harmony, in communication. Once we have that balance, then we can catapult ourselves up into the awareness and link these other aspects of ourselves with the high self, the superconscious mind. This has taken years and years of study and discipline in the past to be able to do that. Now, because of the change in consciousness that's taking place over the whole world and of all of humanity, we're able to do it in one weekend. So I have concentrated all of the studies that I've done for years and years and years, condensed them, presented them in an easy, simple, comfortable workshop. High school kids love it because I tell them, all you have to do is close your eyes and relax. If you go to sleep, that's fine. At the end of the workshop, you'll be able to do everything everybody else is able to do. And they say, oh man, that's neat. Oh, this is the best course I've ever had. I'll just wake up in the morning and close my eyes and forget all about it. And this is true. However, most people want to stay awake and participate and realize what is happening. One of the terminologies that we use in describing this, there are many descriptions of these separate and distinct states of consciousness. Every religion talks about them. Every spiritual teaching has its own interpretation, its own terminology. Today, our rational mind really enjoys numbers. It likes the scientific approach. It likes to have proof. And so to help our rational minds adapt to this and understand it, we use the terms of biofeedback or of the electroencephalograph, the EEG. This talks about brain waves. We're electromagnetic beings. The brain itself sends out minute electrical pulses which can be measured. We have special instruments which measure this with the EEG or with the alpha meter. In biofeedback, which is a study of these different states, they use special methods for enabling you to focus upon a certain wave state, brainwave state, and be in that brainwave state. So we found that when the brain is pulsing at a very rapid rate, you're in your mental world, you're in the outer world, which we call beta consciousness. And this is from 14 to 21 cycles a second. This is using the mind, using the intellect, and being aware of all of the activities going on in our normal world. There are times when we become quiet, we still ourselves, we meditate, we go into contemplation, we may be listening to music and find ourselves drifting off into a deeply relaxed state. This is indicated by the brain waves moving to 7 to 14 cycles a second, which we call the alpha level. There's another state of slower brain waves, which is a whole deeper state of meditation, and this is between 3.5 or 4 cycles a second and 7 or 8, which we call theta. Most of us find that we don't spend much of our waking time in theta, although we go into it every night when we go to sleep, because it's such a profound state. If you're meditating and you find yourself going into theta, this is the time you space out. You come back and you say, I don't know where I was. It was wonderful, but I don't have any recollection. Those who are able to move into the theta level and maintain it in a waking state are the adepts, the advanced, skilled people in all different types of disciplines. They find themselves in the theta. This is something that in the brain studies they found that only Zen masters, in all of those whom they studied, only Zen masters are able to reach this state and stay in that state. And so now we're telling you, we can teach you to do this. You can learn to do this. You can be in that theta level and use the immense qualities and skills which you're able to practice when you're in that state. There's a slower state of consciousness which is called the delta. This is from 0 cycles a second until 3.5 or 4. This is a state of coma. Now we're finding in our advanced meditations, we're going into this. People are becoming more advanced, and we find individuals who are able to go into theta and be fully conscious. This is very rare. To me, it's interesting that these brainwave states correspond in age as we mature. From birth until about 3 years old, we're in the delta rhythm most of the time, and this is the level 0 to 3, or 3.5 cycles. And so a little child is in the delta most of that time. At 3.5 or 4, the brain speeds up, and a child is in the theta level most of the time until he's 7 or 8 years of age. And this is the rhythm of this theta level. At this level, he changes to the alpha at that state, which again is 14 to 21 cycles a second, and spends most of his time in the alpha level. With puberty or maturity, he moves into the beta level, 14 to 21 cycles a second, the era of our everyday world of time and space and of the rational mind. These are qualities connected with each of these states which we leave behind as we mature. Most of us as adults are so focused upon our everyday world, upon our thinking, this wonderful rational mind which guides us through this world, and of space, and of time, and the 5 senses, that we put aside the qualities and the consciousness and the awareness that goes with the alpha and the theta. When we do, it's as if we're living in one story in a 2-storied house, and we have this whole aspect of ourselves which is closed down. In the workshop we're doing, we learn to go consciously to the alpha state, to go into it and maintain it as long as we wish, to utilize those characteristics and the skills which go with this state and use it in our everyday lives. It's tremendously exciting because with our low self, this is the level, and the low self is the subconscious mind, and that era of ourselves, it's a level of instinct. And as we said, it's a level of memory, of habits, which are valuable, but not to dominate ourselves. With our conscious mind, again, this enables us to live fully and richly in our world. And so these are the middle self and the low self. We learn in the exercises that we're doing to go back to the alpha level, to consciously gain the ability to stay in that level and to utilize those qualities, bring them up into our everyday world consciously. So what are we learning to do? And how are we learning to do it? We use visualization, imagery, and guided imagery of just relaxing and turning our consciousness over to the teacher who guides you gently through these exercises, enabling you to do it yourself gradually as you work with it. And so the first thing we learn to do is to relax totally and consciously. Most of us think that we're relaxed. Somebody will say, "Why don't you relax?" And you'll say, "I am relaxed. Can't you see how relaxed I am?" Most of us don't really get relaxed unless we have a massage or unless we have something deliberately of learning to relax. This is considered so important, the ability to relax, that in many universities, in Sonoma State, for example, where I got my degrees, we had a 6-week course in deep relaxation. It was required for everyone because we believed that we couldn't learn the things we needed to learn unless we could relax consciously. So when you finish the 6 weeks course, no matter what's happening, you can be in an accident and you tell yourself relax, and you just completely relax as you go through the accident and usually emerge without any problems. You will learn to do the same thing in this weekend course that we do to reach that same state of deep relaxation that we had in the 6 weeks course in college. This is because we have a whole new direction in learning of this communication with the inner mind, the direct communication between the instructor and the student. So the imagination is of the high self, intuition is of the high self, as compared with instinct, which is of the low self. We want to awaken and open to the intuition, and this is one of the main focuses of the workshop, is to develop the intuition so that it's available to you. In learning, again, you tune directly to the intuitive self, and you tune into the source of all knowledge and all wisdom. You ask a question, be receptive as you learn to do, and the answer intuitively comes into your mind. Whether you've studied and have this in your memory, or whether it's totally unknown and is in universal intelligence, divine intelligence, you are able to do this. When I went back to school as an adult, with my children grown, I took the standard workshop and the standard schedule of 12 units, and then I began applying the techniques I had learned in this workshop. And I went from 12 units, which is a full-time student, to 30 units a semester, which is just unimaginable. To take that many units, I didn't have time to read all the assigned bookwork, so at least once a week I would go into a classroom and have a pop quiz. We have a test that I would read the first question, I wouldn't know the answer, I didn't know anything about it, the whole subject. I would look at the question, close my eyes, move to the alpha level, ask the question of my inner self, the answer would pop into my mind, I would open my eyes and write it down. Usually I was the only person in the class who had 100 or 99 in all of the tests. I went through the whole program, and I had so many units that I ended up with 2 degrees. I could have had 3 or 4 with all those units. And up through the master's program with a 4.0 average. That's a straight A level. Since that time, I've taught thousands of students to do the same thing. This is intrinsic, it's within ourselves, it's something that anybody can learn to do. And it's a whole new direction in learning. Instead of learning by rote, by repetition, which we do now, repeating something over and over, you just tune in and you ask and you know the answer. This is one of the first things we learn to do, of going to this alpha level. We are awakening characteristics which belong to that level. And as we mentioned, it's a level of intuition. It's the level of taking command of your body, of being able to communicate with the intelligence of the unconscious mind, the subconscious mind, to communicate and ask, what is wrong? What is happening? What do I need? Do I need a change in diet? Do I need these vitamins? Do I need more exercise? What kind of exercise? And to give instructions to that aspect of ourselves. This is natural in children. They have this ability. They also have what we determine and call the psychic abilities. These are all natural parts of all of us. What anyone else can do psychically, you can do. Each of us can do. It isn't something we learn. This is a part of ourselves which is fully developed. It's already there. It's just discovering it and learning how to make the link so we can draw upon those capabilities and those abilities that we have. It's also the level of creativity where you are inspired and your imagination and to bring whatever you focus upon into reality. And as part of the training, we learn to develop our memory so that you can recall anything you've ever read, anything you've heard in a lecture, just by desiring to do it. It's a level, again, of inspiration, of asking for assistance from a higher source, and to have that assistance come to you. When we give the workshop, we start out first with the level of deep relaxation and learning to relax, which we do the first night, so that once you have it then for the rest of your life. We learn to take charge of our sleep, because sleep is actually changing a state of consciousness. From being awake and alert, to being in deep sleep, to being able to awaken whenever you want without an alarm clock, deciding ahead of time, I want to wake up at 6:13 a.m. At 6:13 a.m. you'll be wide awake and alert. Of deciding that you can sleep at any time, and again, it's changing states of consciousness. So this is one of the very first things that we learn to do. And then we start out the next day with the techniques for learning that we were talking about and for remembering. And then we use this level to solve problems in our lives, to think of an issue in our lives which is confronting us and causing disturbance or confusion, or we don't know the answer. We tune into it, and using these special processes that we learn in the class, we find the answer. And you can use this in any aspect of your life. You can use it to acquire knowledge, use it to acquire skills, to look at a situation in your life and to bring into your life what you need in a material sense, anything in the area of abundance. You can use this to find the perfect job, to find the perfect companion, the perfect mate. People use it in all areas, whatever it is that is causing a problem in their lives, something they need. By using these processes, you take command and use the power of your own innate nature to bring this forth. During the workshop, we also are able to change habits, to examine a habit, decide, all right, I've outgrown this habit, it served me well, now it's time to move on, to replace it with another habit. And we are able to do this. We've had people change habits which normally are very difficult to change. For years, when most people were smoking, they would come for the workshop just to learn to stop smoking. They would come on Friday night, unable to control this habit. When they left on Sunday, they no longer had any desire to smoke. It didn't come back. They had totally cured that habit of smoking. So this is an extreme example. This is a major test. You're able to do this with any habits. With procrastination, one of my habits that I haven't focused upon yet, with any type of habit that you want to use, with changing your eating habits, changing your reluctance to exercise, whatever you wish to do, You simply talk to this inner part of yourself from the higher self and are able to change the habits. We have an exercise of what we call releasing and magnetizing, which is a favorite one, of releasing from your life any qualities which you feel don't belong in your life that you'd like to change, magnetizing to you those qualities you'd like to have in your life. We learn to project our awareness to different dimensions, to move into the plant life kingdom, into the kingdom of matter. We learn animal communication so that you can communicate with animals, understand them, and to actually project your awareness into be an experience, whatever you would like to experience. You can project your awareness to different places, and as if you're actually there, to be aware of what's taking place. If you're away from home, you wonder what your children are up to, you can project your awareness there, and they'll say, "Mom, how did you know I was doing this?" "Oh, I just knew." You don't let your secrets away. One of the things that everyone who focuses upon awakening consciousness, the first thing they do is learn to work with white light. And this is a very powerful exercise. It's used for protection. It's used for many different things. We will learn to develop that, to use it with a whole new perspective, to use it in different ways, which are more in addition to the other ones that we have been using. One of the benefits of this is to be able to help people and to help yourself if you are around people who drain your energy. And this is very common of people who've awakened their magnetic fields and made holes in the magnetic field and in the aura so that they're no longer to retain their own energy. These people are uncomfortable to be around because when you're next to them, you suddenly get very weary and you don't know what's happening. You start yawning and feeling as if you just like to take a nap. You realize that every time you're around this person, you have the same sensation. When you learn to read auras and to study auras, which you do anytime you're taking a class of parapsychology, you can see what happens. You see the magnetic field around a person as light. If somebody has very bright light, then he has lots of energy and he's a normal person. We will have him sit before the group, and then next to him we'll have a person whose light is very dim. This is a person who has blown holes in his aura. He's not able to retain his own light, and so he draws upon the light of other people. As you watch the two people sitting there, you will see the amount of light balance, that the one with a bright light will find himself becoming dimmer and more tired. The one with a dim light begins to perk up and to look around, and he has much more vitality, much more life, because he's extracting, he's borrowing the light from the other person. So this is something we can heal, that we do this with anybody of that nature, not only protecting yourself. I took workshops from some wonderful teachers of how to protect yourself from this. We not only protect ourselves, we help that person in healing, so he no longer has that problem. We have different ways of working with a light which are very powerful, very beautiful, very wonderful. We can use this to resolve issues in our whole world, to transform our world, to transform the consciousness of our world. We create workshop, laboratory, space on the inner dimension, a beautiful space where we relax, and to project our consciousness and our awareness to a higher base. And from that, we're able to be in other dimensions, to be in touch with those dimensions, to unite them with our everyday world. So we create this very special place. And then we're able to tune in from that plane of consciousness and meet the special teachers, the guardian angels who are working with each of us. Each of us has helpers on this higher dimension of being who are in touch with divine intelligence. They're intermediaries and allow us to attune and to acquire knowledge which is beyond the rational mind. So in a special cycle, the students meet two of their guides, a male and a female, because we're living in the world of polarity. These are individuals, each one has his own personality. Each one is in touch with universal intelligence, with divine intelligence. They're able to advise you, to help you in many, many different ways. They're companions, they're wonderful, and you will establish a special relationship with them so that they're with you all of the time. We will study anatomy from the intuitive level so that you are able to attune to a friend, someone you know, go down to your meditative level, scan with your inner vision, your expanded vision, and be able to ascertain what his whole, if he has any problem, any physical problems, but you'll also be able to see the skeletal system, the muscular system, the circulatory system, the different systems in the body in your own way of perceiving. Some people are what we call clairvoyant, they're able to see. Some are clairaudient, they're able to hear from the inner dimension, and a voice will tell them and describe what is happening. And there are those who are clairsentient. Their sense of touch is more highly developed. The sense of touch is connected to the knowing sense. And so I know that I know. I don't know how I know, but I know. And in these different ways we're able to evaluate, to study anatomy. We do this with the animal kingdom first and learned the animal anatomy, the animal communication, and then we tune in to people we know. The last thing that we do is remote healing, being a medical intuitive and being able to send remote healing. Each of us works with a partner. The partner gives them the name of someone he knows whom the healer doesn't know. We'll give the healer the person's name, his age, where he resides, the community in which he resides. And the healer will be able to mentally scan the image of the person. His own inner self will develop a system of letting him know if something is wrong. It may be that there's a shadow over part of the body. We want him to use his hands so he can feel, and a hand may tense, or it may feel that this is heavy, or this is cold, or it's hot. Each one finds his own way of knowing, and that will point out to him an area that has a problem. And so he scans, the healer scans, finds the area with a problem, and then he asks, what is the cause of this problem? What is the reason? If you've had anything to do with medicine or healing, you know this is the big mystery. Why is this person having this problem? At this level, he tells you. His own inner being tells you. This is because of a nutritional problem. This is because of an injury. This is karmic. Whatever the answer may be, the person will tell you what it is. And then you're able to send extremely powerful healing energy. Healing not only the problem itself, but also the underlying cause of having the problem. This is our final exercise. When we do this, we're utilizing all of the skills we have learned. We're projecting healing, love, caring to another person. And what we find that whatever you send out comes back to you, multiplied over and over. So as we send out healing and love and caring, we ourselves benefit. Our skills develop very rapidly. We find that our whole world is changed by doing this. This is very valuable if you're in the healing professions, to be able to know, to make accurate, in medicine it would be diagnosis, you'd be able to make the accurate diagnosis. And not only that, to discover the cause of the problem and to correct the problem. When we start out doing this, we find, as we measure the energy of the brain, that our thoughts are extremely potent. When I was in high school, I was told that the atom is the smallest particle of matter. And we know what has happened to that theory. Now we have the protons and the electrons, and we go down to sheer energy. And we find that everything is energy, including your thoughts. Our thoughts are a special form of energy, but they're just as much energy as anything else in our world. The thoughts have a special quality because they're magnetic. Whatever you send out comes back to you multiplied 10 times and more. If you send out thoughts of anger, of resentment and hostility, what happens? Wherever you go, you meet angry people, you find anger and hostility in your world. If you decide, I'm going into business and I'm going to manipulate and control people, or whatever your field of expertise, then you will find you encounter people wherever you go who attempt to manipulate you, attempt to control you. On the other hand, if you send out thoughts of love, of caring, of kindness, compassion, wherever you go, you encounter loving, compassionate, caring people. You can walk through the most hazardous places on the planet and be totally safe if you're sending out love, because this is what returns to you. This is when you see the aura, as you learn to do in parapsychology, you learn to sense and feel the magnetic fields. You are aware of this, you pick this up, you can tell when you're in the presence of, just by, you can actually see the colors. If people have dark thoughts, they have dark colors in their energy field. If they have anger, if they have hostility and rage, it's a very deep, unpleasant red. This is also the color of lust, of the misuse of the energy field in that manner. And so you can protect yourself. You can look at somebody, if somebody wants to meet you and they have this deep, dark, uncomfortable red around you, and you say, excuse me, I'm busy right at the moment, and you don't encounter them. On the other hand, the positive emotions are beautiful, light, radiant colors. So you can look at a person and see the quality, the essence of that person. One of the most beautiful exercises in a classroom when you're learning to do this is to ask a student to sit before the classroom and change his emotions. The instructor will ask a student, would you please become angry? Some people are able to sit before a classroom of 100 people and become angry. Remember what he did to me? Oh my word. And here this anger flares up, and the whole class sees the rage, sees the color around him. On the other hand, the instructor will say, would you please think of someone you love? Not only think of that person, but feel the feeling of love. And so the student will think of that person, and as the class watches, this beautiful rosy pink flows out from his heart, fills the whole wall behind him. If the person he loves is in the room, this pink color will flow to that person, enfold that person, embrace that person. One of the things we learn is that now nothing is secret. We were told that that day would come. It's right now. If you learn to see auras, you can tell if somebody is having a romance. Once I went to a meeting and two people very much wanted this to be secret. So I was talking to a man and all of a sudden this bright pink surrounded him. And I followed it to this woman coming in the door. And the whole class did the same thing because she was surrounded and everybody said, "We didn't know you two were a couple. We didn't know you were in love." And they said, "Nobody's supposed to know. I want it to be secret." But everybody could see and see that color around you. As you become more adept and more skilled in learning to develop these inner senses, incidentally, we have 5 inner senses which correspond to our 5 outer senses. And the workshop that we're doing is developing those 5 inner senses, all of them, so that you'll be at home on these inner dimensions. And so, as you're developing these senses and this awareness, the instructor will ask a student, would you, ahead of time, I'm going to ask you to be a subject. I want you to think of an object. Would you please write down the object you'll be thinking about? So the student will write down that he's going to think about a pine tree or about an RV or an Arabian horse. While he's before the class, the instructor, and he'll write this down, the instructor will have it with him. And then the instructor will say, would you please think of an object? The student closes his eyes, imagines the object, thinks about it, and the whole class sees this image form in his magnetic field, the image of the object he's thinking about. If you're around psychics, they're able to look at you and say, oh, you're interested in buying a new car. Do you really want a red car? And are you sure you want a Mercury? Or would you be interested in a Ford? And the subject will be so astounded because it's just a panorama moving in front of you. Whatever you think about repeatedly, you carry with you for the whole world to see. As you do this, you realize, oh no, all these people can see me. I'd better clean up my thoughts. And the next thing we think is, if other people can do it, I want to be able to do it too. So everyone can learn to do this. Children do this, most children do this instinctively, automatically. They're able to tune in, they're able to read your thoughts. It's something we all had, which we left behind as we moved into the rational mind. One of the important things is to take charge of our thoughts. As you realize that you're creating your world with your thoughts, whatever you think about, you magnetize to you. There are positive thoughts, there are negative thoughts. If we think about negative things, we magnetize the negative things to us. If we nurse our grievances and go over in our mind, look what happened to me. I'll never forgive that person. Look what the world has done to me. Then you magnetize that into your world. You go over these grievances and you create the repetition of those. On the other hand, if you count your blessings, as we're told to do, there's value and wisdom in each of these adages that we're taught. If you count your blessings and think about it and are so grateful, I am so lucky, what happens? More blessings come into your world. You're creating the blessings, you're focusing upon that, and that what comes into you. When you speak, your words carry great power. Your thoughts are enormously powerful. You give added energy by using the voice, emphasizing the thoughts. So it is so important that we be extremely careful of the words we use. One of the wonderful things about habits is that your lesser self, your lower self, is a willing servant. Anything you tell it to do, it will do. Habits are fabulous. Otherwise, when we get up in the morning, we would have to learn to walk, we'd have to start from the very beginning. But because of habits, we're able to turn this over to a different part of our consciousness. Anything you say with emphasis, with emotion, your inner self listening will say, okay, I'll do that. Anything you repeat 3 times is a direct order to the inner self. It follows that direction. So think of the common phrases that we use without even being aware. What are the phrases that you use? Some of the ones you'll say, oh, I know I can't do this. And your inner self says, oh, we could do it. I just can't do it. All right, we'll follow your instructions. From now on, we won't be able to do it. We can't do it. Around a campus, you would hear, I know I'm going to flunk this exam. And your inner self says, oh, we were going to get an A on it. All right, if we're going to flunk the exam, we'll flunk the exam. Anything you tell your inner self, oh, my aching back, or I just can't see that. I'm sick and tired. When I would give lots of workshops in some part of the country where it's overcast a lot of the time, every time I go, people say, I am so sick and tired of the rain. So the morning they wake up and it's raining, oh no, your inner self has been told sick and tired. So suddenly they feel sick, I feel so tired, and they really don't want to get on with the day because it's raining. When we understand this, then we begin to monitor and to be very careful of the expressions we use. Here I am breaking my back to get this done for you. And this, all of these different phrases, which are just figures of speech but are negative. When we get to the rational mind with the beta level, then we can analyze this and realize this is just an expression. But the lower self doesn't have that ability yet. So it takes it literally and it puts into effect whatever it is. You can use this in a positive way, but also be very careful of the expressions you use. If you're around people who are speaking negatively, you can protect yourself because it's coming in subliminally, all the thoughts and the words and expressions of the people around you. You can ask them to change the subject, or you can actually change the subject, but if it's something you can't do, you tell your inner self, I want to cross that out, I refuse to let that enter my energy field. And you can actually, this is why instructors are alerted if they're in a classroom and their students suddenly cross their arms across the solar plexus. You're protecting yourself. I don't want to accept that. I don't want that in my energy field. I don't believe this. This is skepticism. And so we can do this. Or you can cross your fingers. You can tell yourself, I cross my fingers, or cross your legs. And this is why those who understand body language in a classroom will tell you, don't cross your legs. You're cutting off the energy flow. You're not learning. I took a wonderful workshop with Dr. John Diamond. It was a workshop for professional performers, musicians, and we found that so many of the musicians were weakening the audience. And one of the ways they weakened it was by crossing their legs. Your spine needs to be straight so the energy comes in and it projects out as a performer, as a singer, or as a musician. We find that all the violinists they tested weakened the audience. Why? Because the head was tipped. When you're working with a violin, your head is tipped. So Dr. Diamond taught them to lift the violin so the head was straight and the violin was higher. And immediately then the weakening effect was gone. We're doing this automatically without even realizing it. If you're a performer, it's very important to know it. But just in relationships with other people, if you tip your head when you're talking, then this is weakening the person listening to you. This is also a way of protecting you, as we started to say, if your people are negative. So If somebody's talking to you and you don't want to hear it, you can cross your arms, you can cross them behind you, you can cross your fingers, and you can also instruct your inner self, I'm going to give you a cue word, my inner self, which will refuse to accept that energy, that information into my energy system. You can choose any word that you want, such as cancel. As you would cancel it with your computer, you cancel it out. It might be a little uncomfortable if you're talking to a friend, and the friend says, do you realize the terrible things going on in the world? And you can say, cancel, 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 cancel. You probably cancel your friendship if you do. So there's a more diplomatic way of doing it. You can reduce it down to nothing, all of that information. You can say that zero. So as your friend is again telling all of the dire things happening in the world, then you can say zero, 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 zero. And your friend will go to other friends and say, have you talked to her recently? Do you notice something a little strange about her recently? So there's another word that means zero that you can interject into a conversation very easily, and that word is oh. So here your friend is telling her all the awful things happening in her life, and you say, oh, 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 oh. And to your inner self, that means cancel, cancel, cancel. It's extremely important, again, to be aware of what is taking place around you. When you're in the alpha level, which we're learning to do, this is why you have this capacity to learn instantly, immediately, at that level without having to repeat. When you watch television, you drop into the alpha level. So you no longer are having your ability to evaluate. Little children are in the alpha and the theta all of the time. As parents and teachers, and those who work with children know, it's extremely important to monitor what they are watching, because it's going in this deep, deep level. They're creating the foundation of their lives, their basic beliefs, and whatever they're watching on television, the visual impact is very strong. Coming in at the alpha level, they accept it as the truth. And this is true of us also. Unfortunately, we have subliminal programming where people have learned to send, it's supposed to be illegal, but in our parapsychology, we had instruments which would test and found that on the radio, on the television, that on videos and on CDs and tapes, that it was very common, buy such and such a brand, as you're watching a program, and the children suddenly go out when it comes to their, Mom, I want this kind of cereal. I have to have this kind of cereal, only this kind, because of the subliminal programming that's going on. We learn to protect ourselves again with that by setting up the shield around us and that awareness that goes with us. One of the beautiful things about doing the healing, to get back to that diagnosis and healing, is that your own senses become very refined, your own skills, you become adept, you're able to, all of the things that we're studying are enhanced and intensified. It's also, we've had able to have credits for continuing education for nurses. So many people in the healing arts find this of great value. I've had quite a few veterinarians who take the workshop, and they say, I just tune into the animal, and I don't even have to diagnose when it's there. I don't even have to see the animal. I can tell what's wrong, and I know ahead of time. I seem to be especially helpful for people learning to develop these special qualities. I seem to be a catalyst. The major thing that happens, we have skills you can apply to every area of your life, but the most important thing that's happening is the awakening and the quickening to higher states of consciousness, higher states of awareness. Whenever a person takes the workshop, he finds that he's going up the fast elevator instead of climbing the stairs to a new state of consciousness. Wherever he is in his own awareness, he will take the next step in higher awareness when he takes the workshop. So the whole class can have people who are skilled, who are teachers themselves, advanced adepts in many different disciplines, or it can have somebody who knows nothing about it. It can have somebody who's resistant. I don't want to be here. My spouse brought me here, and by golly, I'm not going to have anything to do with any of this. When it's all over, he's able to do everything in spite of his resistance. He's able to do everything that everybody else is able to do. Because again, it's a natural part of ourselves. It's learning to be in touch with it. It's fun, it's easy, it's, as I said, you can even sleep through the whole thing, no effort connected with it. And when you finish, you have an overwhelming sense of joy, of happiness, and of being in command of yourself. You have charge of your life. You're no longer just an innocent victim, that you yourself can decide what you want to do with your life and to do it.
I wonder if anyone might ever have asked you how this relates to self-hypnosis. Is there some element that's similar to that?
In hypnosis, we go to this, the brain has the same levels of awareness, all of us. And so this is just a different way. The people who use hypnosis or self-hypnosis are going to the same alpha level, giving suggestions to themselves, or the hypnotherapist will give suggestions. A hypnotherapist will take a person to the theta level to work with serious issues and to really make changes within himself. So this is learning to do it automatically, and it's the same principle which apply with all of them, whatever name we give to them.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if there's no more questions, we'd just like to thank you
And
for
thank you.
being with us today and sharing.